Watch and listen and feel the thunder of the world's most powerful form of motorsports. The engine in a top fuel dragster burns a potion of nitromethane and makes nearly 4,000 horsepower. That kind of energy launches with a force that gives top fuel cars the nickname slingshots. A funny car is anything but. As powerful as a top fuel machine, the funny car's body covers all four wheels and the driver. It's lowered from above, hence their nickname, floppers. Pro Stock completes the drag racing professional triumvirate. Packing more than 700 cubic inches under the hood, a Pro Stock looks like the cars you and I drive, assuming we drive a quarter mile in 7.5 seconds and more than 185 miles an hour. Welcome to Bristol International Dragway, home of the International Hot Rod Association and Thunder Valley. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. A capacity crowd is on hand in Thunder Valley for the Mountain Empire Chevy dealers IHRA Spring Nationals. Hello everyone, I'm Bob Barsha along with ESPN drag racing analyst Ted Jones in the pits of five-time IHRA Pro Stock World Champion Ricky Smith. Where the work is taking on a certain urgency, Ted, this is Thunder Valley where everyone wants to do well and Ricky really needs a good weekend.
Ricky's in a position he's not accustomed to. Ricky is number 2 in the points after losing to Tommy Mooney recently at Darlington. Now Ricky's installed a new 735 cubic inch Pontiac motor in his new STP-sponsored ride, and he's out for revenge, Bob.
Ricky will be one of the great stories of the weekend, but right now let's catch up with Brett Kepner, who has news on our nitro-fueled competitors.
The 1989 season at IHRA Championship Drag Racing produced probably the most diverse group of winners we've ever seen. In fact, in Funny Car Eliminator, no one could win more than one race last season. But in 1990, that seems to have changed. And here at the biggest race of the season, the IHRA Spring Nationals, the 26th annual edition, it really looks like it's changed. This is the most feared two-car team in IHRA drag racing history, the Chuck Etchells Connecticut-based Future Force Top Fuel Dragster and Funny Car. Etchells rounded out the season in 1989 by winning the Fall Nationals here at Bristol. He was one of 9 different Funny Car winners throughout the year. But he came back at the season-opening Winter Nationals to win again, and now, coming into this event, he's looking to do something no one's done in Funny Car Eliminator and IHRA Racing since 1986, and that's win 3 IHRA National Championship events in a row.
Thank you, Brad. And with the temperature at a warm 78 degrees and a wet 80% humidity, the engine tuners are really going to have their hands full this weekend. ESPN Speed World coverage of the IHRA Spring Nationals is brought to you by Quaker State. A Big Q is one tough motor oil. By Monroe shock absorbers. Your safety could depend on it. And by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. Someone this year along the IHRA television trail is going to win a beautifully restored 57 Chevy from Dan Shuck Manufacturing in California. Look for the IHRA secret race word and send it to Box 3029, Bristol, Tennessee 37625. Coming up later in our show, we'll have this week's word and we'll draw the winner from all of the correct entries submitted this year. Coming up next, the ever-popular Night of Fire final round qualifying at the IHRA Spring Nationals. Stay right there.
What makes a Quaker State engine so tough? One tough motor oil. And being tough takes more than just talking tough. There's a brand that says it's been engineered for smaller engines, while Quaker State has been tested tough for small engines. In Japan, in Europe, and in America. In fact, Quaker State has toughed out the most demanding specs for every size engine in every size car sold in the U.S. What makes any size Quaker State engine so tough? Quality engineered Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
There's no dashboard light to warn you. No dipstick to check. Yet when warned, they could cause your car to lose control and braking. Don't find out your shocks and struts are worn by accident. Get your shocks and struts inspected at your Monroe retailer soon. Monroe, your safety could depend on it.
Nothing beats a winning team, pushing hard, reaching for the dream. Nothing beats clean, crisp and cold, got the king of fear on a roll. Nothing beats the bud.
What you're about to see is a sim. Brushstrokes, runs, streaks. Now consider the new Wagner Power Painter. It has patented controls for precision, a convenient backpack for big jobs. It paints smoothly and evenly over cracks and tough surfaces. Why did we ruin this beauty? So you wouldn't ruin this one. Wagner, not just a whole lot faster, a whole lot better.
Back in Thunder Valley, Bristol, Tennessee, and the International Hot Rod Association Mountain Empire Chevy Dealers Spring Nationals. Bob Barsha and Ted Jones with you. Brett Kepner is down in the pit lane. And before we get to our Night of Fire final round qualifying, let's take a look at some of the match race action that took place this weekend here at Bristol.
Well, this was a special look back nostalgia, if you would, Bob, at K.S. Pittman and Stone Woods and Cook. These are 40 Willys, double A gas supercharged cars, just the way they ran them back in the 1960s.
Well, maybe not just the way they ran them, but a great show anyway, Ted. Then it was on to the Night of Fire under gray skies here in Bristol. Final chance to qualify for the field and those all-important World Championship points. Pro Stock Night of Fire began with Doug Kirk and Mark Powak. Mark Powak, always a dangerous competitor, and that is not a red light. Remember, this is qualifying. This is not actually head-to-head drag racing. They're just looking for that all-important ET to get them into a really competitive field.
Well, Kirk turned in a 750, and that is right, Bob. They're running actually against the clock, not against each other. So if someone leaves early like Ricky Smith just did right there, it doesn't really matter. They're racing the clock to get into the field.
And Ricky Smith is used to being a top qualifier. This performance only got him number 6. In top fuel in the near lane, Richard Holcomb, who came into this Bristol weekend as the points leader in top fuel, up against Michael Brotherton, who's in Hank Hendry's old ride.
You can see the appeal as you see the flames out of the headers. Mike Brotherton, a 540. That's good for the number 3 spot, Bob.
And here's a couple of guys we haven't seen much of thus far this year on the IHRA trail. Paul Smith and Wayne Bailey. And Paul in the right lane to the right of your screen wound up as top qualifier in top fuel.
A 533 did the job very well for Smith, so he's to be watched during this race.
Now, because of weather conditions, we only got in one round in funny car. Larry Camenzino in the right lane broke, and Whit Bazemore was the only Nitro funny car to score a run in Night of Fire.
Whit Bazemore turned in a 615, which was good enough for first alternate. Didn't make the field, and here's what brought it all to a screeching halt. The rains came in a torrential downpour over Thunder Valley.
Mother Nature added her own special brand of thunder to Thunder Valley on Saturday night in Bristol, Tennessee. That was the end of that, but we'll be back with the first of Sunday's eliminations. Coming up, quarterfinals in Pro Stock. Stay with us.
Now there's no reason to miss your favorite racing on TV. Racetime Magazine each month provides the only complete and accurate TV listings of all motorsports, racing, and special features. Network, cable, or satellite. If it's
Back at Bristol, Tennessee in the International Hot Rod Association Spring Nationals. Now, in our first round of Pro Stock competition, we had a tremendous upset as our top qualifier in the right lane, Tim Neighbors, was knocked off by Morris Johnson.
And that's really unusual. Not only is Neighbors the number 1 qualifier, but he was running a mountain motor. Morris Johnson at only 500 cubic inches.
Hot on a mountaintop.
Hot on a mountaintop is right. I'll tell you, very seldom, and you know this better than anybody, does the number 1 qualifier lose out to the number 16 man. You beat Tim Neighbors 761 to his quicker 758.
Well, that's good. It's been a long time since I get to talk to you on TV, so it's exciting.
I'll tell you, you have done amazing things and gone through quite a few new cars. This one is basically brand new, and that one was won by your driving ability. What's the car situation?
Well, it's the first run. I felt like the cars really worked this weekend. This mountain has really surprised us, and the extra wheelbase on the Beretta has really caused some problems. Really miss my old black Pontiac.
Well, you're not the underdog anymore. You're now the giant killer, so good luck.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Woo.
And with that woo, the man known as Mojo moved on to quarterfinals in Pro Stock, where he went up against Doug Kirk.
And ironically enough, he's up against another one of those mountain motors, Bob. Kirk running 689 cubic inches of Chevrolet power.
Kirk in the far lane, Morris Johnson in the near lane. Both cars are Chevy Berettas, but a mountain motor against a 500-incher. Now, the 500-incher gets a little bit of a weight break, but they are very competitive, as you can see. And in the far lane, looks like Kirk takes it.
Doug Kirk stopped the upset with a 757 at 184 miles per hour. We'll take one more look at it, and you'll see as the car shifts to high gear, those big cubic inches start to work.
And by popping the chute a little early, Morris Johnson lost by a car length. Now here's a man we've been looking for all day long. Ricky Smith, as we mentioned, he's used to being the top qualifier. He's not here. He's going up against Ed Dixon.
Ricky Smith qualified number 6. That's unusual for Ricky Smith. Ed Dixon, on the other hand, qualified number 3. So this indeed should be won by Dixon if the qualifying numbers are any indication, Bob.
It's a Ford Thunderbird against a Pontiac Trans Am. There you see the very familiar SDP colors, of course, worn for years in stock car racing by Richard Petty. His new teammate in drag racing is Ricky Smith, and both cars launch hard.
Both cars running mountain motors, 723 cubic inches, so at the finish line, it's Ed Dixon as he indeed upset Ricky Smith with a 750 high gear charge.
An amazing upset as they continue here at Bristol. Ricky Smith is the 5-time IHRA World Champion. I think he expected to get straight through this round, and with our special point of view camera at the finish, you see how close it was.
Well, Ed Dixon, that was probably the biggest victory you've had in the last 2 seasons. 750 to Ricky Smith, losing 754. More importantly, I know you're interested for the 4th run now, over 190 miles an hour, 193 again.
Well,
fastest car here by 7 miles per hour.
I'm glad to win. That man's beat me 8 or 9 times. I'm just glad to get by him. You beat him, you beat somebody, you know.
Our next matchup will have Terry Adams, who beat Frank Sanchez in the first round. And he'll be going up against a real favorite in pro stock here in the IHRA, Harold Denton, in the Party Time car, owned by IHRA President Jim Root.
Well, the Party Time has had everybody in the drag racing world talking because he's been turning in some phenomenal ETs. He almost went 200 mile an hour earlier in the season. Adams, on the other hand, who lives right down the road in North Wilkesboro from Harold, could do about anything. Adams running 500 cubic inches, Denton running 742.
Oh, and Denton got a rolling start there, kind of bobbled at the lights. Big lead for Terry Adams. Let's see if he can hold to the finish, and he does.
But I think we have a foul start. Let's take a look. Yes, Harold Denton, the winner, with a 7.58. We'll look one more time. Watch the tree right in the center. You see Adams leave early, punch on the foul light. That's the end of the race.
Well, Harold Denton fooled me as well with that one. We move on to our next pair, which will see Tommy Mooney, our points leader, going up against Mark Powack.
Mooney won the Winter Nationals by upsetting Ricky Smith, so obviously he has to be the odds-on favorite to take this round, Bob.
See the cars pull into the staging beams. First pre-stage and then stage lights. Oldsmobile against Pontiac.
Mooney from Shelby, North Carolina, running one of those 742 cubic inch Sonny Leonard motors.
The RPMs come up. A little bit of a bobble off the line there for Tommy Mooney. He is the points leader. Let's see if he can come back and take it. Powack looks to have a fender on him, but it's Mooney.
Watch those big cubic inches. 748, 195. Look at the speed for Tommy Mooney. He's on a roll again. Now, halfway down the track, watch. You'll see that they're actually equal at the 8th mile mark, and it's that high gear charge with those big cubic inches that tells the story.
Tommy Mooney, for the 2nd straight round, you're the only man in the 740s. A 748 again will make you the quickest car going into the next round by a bunch. But more importantly, the speed on that run, 195.47 miles an hour, the fastest run of this event.
Well, she is rolling down there, wasn't she? All we got to do, we just got to keep doing this, man. That's all.
Did you expect that kind of speed to come up? I mean, that's one of the fastest speeds of this event by a bunch.
Spun and got up on the tires, you know, so I know it was going good, but she was rolling down there, I swear.
That's what 742 cubic inches will do, huh?
Oh, she'll go.
Rolling indeed. Can that first 200-mile-an-hour run be far away in pro stock? By virtue of the quicker ET, Doug Kirk will have lane choice in his semifinal matchup. Coming to the stands here at Thunder Valley in Bristol, Tennessee for the IHRA Spring Nationals. Glad to have you with us. A crowd of over 57,000 on hand for this 3-day event. And right now we're going to take you to quarterfinal action among the Slingshots, top fuel dragsters. This is your points leader, Richard Holcomb from Stockbridge, Georgia, and he's up against another great veteran of the sport, John Carey.
A very even matchup. The number 4 and 5 qualifiers as Holcomb tucked in the number 5 position. Dover, Delaware's John Carey, the number 4 qualifier. So this could be a very good race.
some kind of fluid coming out of the headers there. Is that any kind of a problem, Ted?
I don't think it may not be. Sometimes they load these things up so strong that they actually will pump just a little bit of fluid. We'll have to wait and see when he leaves the line.
That's why we get those great flames during the night of fire, as the fuel's actually burning as it leaves the engine exhaust pipes.
Now that I can see that smoke, Bob, there may be a problem there.
Oh, and it's a red light, I think. Richard Holcomb was in a hurry. He punched the button really quickly, and as a result, I believe John Carey has a walkthrough. Let's look at it again.
Well, John Carey's going to win with a very poor 9:13. He really doesn't have to there. You can clearly see Holcomb when he punches it way early off the line. We'll take a look at the Christmas tree, and you'll see that red light pop on right now, ending the race very quickly. Well, I know that your philosophy has always been take them however you can get them, but that's a wild way to win.
Yeah, I'm sorry for Richard, but I'm glad for me.
What happened to the car? It spun the tires immediately.
Well, when I was backing up, I noticed that the whole top of the car was wet with fuel. And I thought it was coming out of me. Now I noticed when I was backed up alongside Richard, it was coming out of his exhaust pipes.
So it was actually Richard Holcomb's fuel that got on your tires and made you spin?
That was it. So maybe that's why he red lighted. Maybe it's our day.
That's incredible, but you're in the semis. We'll see what happens then. That didn't really tell you much about the way the car's running.
No, that didn't tell us anything.
Well, we'll see you there, guy.
All right, thank you.
Wow, and dangerous as well. Can you imagine the other guy's fuel on your hood? Our next pairing will have Michael Brotherton. And his opponent will be Tommy Johnson, number 3 against number 6 in the qualifying ladder.
Tommy Johnson is a rookie this year in the top fuel ranks. He is the son of Tommy Johnson, the famous mail-order mogul in the feed performance part, out of Ottumwa, Iowa. Tommy was the Rookie of the Year in IHRA competition in alcohol funny car back in 1987, Bob.
You got a good look there at the dual magnetos on Michael Brotherton's engine. All of these cars use 2 spark plugs per cylinder to get great fuel efficiency, and Johnson just gets left at the start. Now Brotherton hazes the tires a bit, but it's an easy run for him.
Brotherton with a 544, 255. He qualified number 3. He should have won the match, and he did. Let's take one more look at it.
I wonder if there was a problem for Tommy Johnson. He just was having all kinds of trouble getting off the pad. Down the racetrack, Brotherton ran into troubles, but he got it done and then talked with Fred.
I'll tell you, nobody can say that you can't drive that thing. Smoke in the tires for most of the second half of the track is still on 544.
It's a Sunday, and Jeff and Susan gave us everything in the world to work with, and we got Schultz tuning and Rob turning the wrenches, and Corey Lee was trying to give me enough to get down the first half track. Yesterday it spun the tires pretty hard and ripped the centers out of them. It did it again, but it's Sunday and we got the win ticket.
Bill Schultz usually doesn't put enough power in there to boil them like that at mid-range. Was it something else?
We've been fighting that all weekend. The second half of the racetrack looked a little marginal, even for the funny cars down there. And it's not really so much an overabundance of power as it's just a little loose down there, Brett.
Well, indeed. You drove right through it, so we'll see you in the semis.
Hey, that's my job.
As you may be able to tell, age and experience is beating youth and exuberance here today. Our next matchup is all Michigan. It'll be Jack Ostrander from Pontiac, Michigan, up against the pride of Lake Orion, Wayne Bailey.
So Wayne Bailey had everybody talking to themselves down at Darlington, South Carolina this year when he upset half the field down there. And so he actually could win this event. Now, he barely got in the field. He qualified number 7 as opposed to Ostrander, who qualified number 2. Obviously, Jack Ostrander should take this win, but as you just heard, the track's a little tricky for the second 8th mile, probably because of all the rain last night, Bob.
Now, Wayne Bailey is in a great situation here. So take a look at Jack Ostrander there. We've already seen Richard Holcomb, the points leader, get knocked off. So if Wayne Bailey can win this race, he can make up some real ground in the points. But he's not going to do it this way. Ostrander. Excellent run, 5:33, 255 miles per hour for Jack Ostrander. That's good enough to go to round 2. And so now we've seen both our points leader in top fuel and number 2 in points get knocked off in the first round here at Bristol. We move on to our next matchup. Paul Smith, the number 1 qualifier, up against Fred Farndon, 3rd in points. Will the jinx continue for our points leaders?
Paul Smith, very, very experienced. He's been running the IHRA circuit for about 15 years, Bob. On the other hand, Freddie Farndon hasn't been on the circuit that long. Smith based out of Boynton Beach, Florida. Farndon out of Edmond, Oklahoma.
Good look at the 2 different front-end treatments. Small wheels on Smith's car as he hazes the tires a little bit, but he pulls it out. Paul Smith with the best reaction we've seen yet at 488. And by virtue of quicker ET, John Carey will have lane choice over Paul Smith when we go to the semifinals. Jack Ostrander will have lane choice over Mike Brotherton. When we
IHRA Championship event, you'll see race cars of every size, color, and description. Something else you'll see just as much of are race car transporters. After all, these teams have to get to the races. The biggest of budgets will allow you to pick up a semi-tractor trailer with every conceivable luxury. A lot of the teams have semi-tractors that offer at least a few conveniences, but it seems like every team of the sport, from most of the pros all the way down to all the sportsmen, use some kind of basically stock dually or crew cab type machine. Seems like the Chevrolets are probably the most popular. Everybody seems to have one. A big V8 engine, an automatic transmission. You have to remember these teams spend sometimes 30, 40, 50,000 miles a year on the road. They literally live in these trucks. But if they can do the job, that's all they need.
One car that won't be in the field today is the World Champions car from last year. When R.C. Sherman retired from driving, Nitro Nick Bonifant put Richard Hartman in this car, or rather what's left of this car. It burned down to the ground in qualifying earlier. The engine blew up right off the starting line. He actually hit the guardrail but came out unscathed.
Absolutely spectacular. He'll not be getting on any trailer to go home. Our first matchup in Nitro Funny Car will see Jerry Caminito up against Mark Sievers, the numbers 3 and 6 qualifiers.
Caminito driving a Cutlass powered by one of the new JP1 racing engines. On the other hand, Sievers also in a Cutlass with a JP1.
Now, Caminito is third in points coming into Bristol. We've already seen the top 3 in our top fuel points get knocked off today. Caminito would be next in line. Let's see what happens.
Caminito in the near lane, Mark Sievers in the far lane.
Good, clean start. They get away. Caminito spins the tires. Look at the smoke, and he loses. Man, tough day for the points leaders.
Upset town in Bristol, 571, and that's good enough for the win. Let's take a look at the finish, and you'll see a good car length win right there.
Our next pair will match a golden oldie, a race car and a driver. In the right, Doc Holliday, the tavern owner from Minnesota, who was runner-up to the championship last year. In the left, Freddie Neely driving the car Dale Pulte once took to a championship.
Well, as a matter of fact, this is the only Buick funny car on the circuit, but Doc pulls the win out with a 585, 246 miles per hour.
Recall a year ago when Doc Holliday came to this racetrack and hit the wall in qualifying, couldn't show for his race, and missed a world championship.
Boy, you can see right there, yeah, why Neely loses at about the 8th mile. He goes up in smoke. That 8th mile mark is very critical and significant in this race, Bob, as we get deeper into it.
And now we will see this man, Wayne Radke. They're bringing up the body work. That's not a good sign.
Something wrong. They lift that Beretta body up. They're having a look at that Keith Black 500 cubic inch Hemi engine, making some adjustments right there, the crew chief.
Now, they can't wait long. In the other lane is young Casey Spurlock, a rookie on the circuit this year. These cars heat up very quickly, and they're not going to have much time, but it looks like Radke will take the line.
Spurlock has really been hot. He's out of nearby Nashville, Tennessee. He's been staged up and waiting. Starter Jim Blakely, however, decides the time was not enough to disqualify anyone.
But Radke still has problems getting it pointed straight, and Casey Spurlock, the sensation of Nitro Funny Car racing this year, took his first victory on the NHRA trail. Now he's got his first one on the IHRA circuit.
Spurlock is hooked up and humming.
Well, as tricky as this track has been for everybody, you've got to be happy with this one. 567, the quickest run of Funny Car of the race.
567, that's a good run. The guys have really done a nice job here at this track, and it is tricky. And it went out there and it shook a little bit, started to haze the tires, and I was able to drive through it. So I'm real happy for the guys. They really did a nice job, made this car go down the racetrack.
That just looked like the hardest launch so far, even in qualifying. Have you figured out where the clutch should be for the starting line?
Well, the starting line here is real good, and that's the tricky part. You can go ahead and leave hard like we would at a racetrack with a real solid, fast concrete launch pad. Then you get on out there and it's a little slick. So the track throws you off here, and you really have to watch your tune-up very closely, and thankfully the guys here are the best in the world, and they got me down the racetrack.
Well, you're in the semis. We'll see you there.
Thank you.
And doesn't sound like a rookie, does he? Our final matchup in Nitro Funny Car will be the points leader, this man, Chuck Etchells, and boy, he really has to be worrying now. Our top 3 points guys and top fuel have been knocked off. We've lost our number 3 man in Nitro Funny Car, and here's the guy who has a shot at him, Bob Gilbertson.
Well, Chuck Etchells, not only the points leader, but he qualified solidly number 1 in his Chevrolet. So Etchells, although he's probably worried out of Woodstock, Connecticut, I doubt if he's got to be considered an underdog at this point in time.
Well, we met him at the top of the show with Brett, certainly one of the finest Nitro Funny Cars on the circuit. Across the way, Bob Gilbertson, who has a lot of alcohol funny cars in his background. Cars come to the line, they stage their way. Looked like a great jump off the line for Etchels, and he smokes the tires badly, but keeps his foot in it.
Etchels with a very easy win, 598, 217. Not a real great time, but he was on top of it all the way down. You'll have one more look as he comes off that concrete pad. He breaks loose. Now he breaks loose again at the 8th mile mark, the point they're talking about on this track where they're beginning to lose traction. But it was good enough to take the win, Bob.
And by virtue of the quicker ET, Chuck Etchels will have lane choice over Doc Holliday. In the other lane, it will be Spurlock over Sievers.
In drag racing, and most importantly, in the full-bodied vehicles. Chuck Etchels' future for Chevy Beretta uses this aerodynamic lip at the bottom of the body to create a little more downforce, keeping the car glued to the ground. But there's one aerodynamic trick that a lot of people don't see on this car, and that's this lip outside of the leading edge of the wheel well. This little lip actually acts as a wing. It creates a little more downforce around the edges of the car, and it deflects air outside of this area of turbulence in the wheel well. Just one more trick keeps these machines at state-of-the-art aerodynamic status. In IHRA Championship drag racing, only one category of competition showcases machines as they came from the factories in Detroit. Stock Eliminator is a division filled with some of the greatest factory-produced muscle cars in the history of automotive racing. But indeed, this class also showcases some of the more bizarre combinations of vehicles you'll ever see. Just about every brand, body style, and even type of engine is represented. But there are a few that are definitely more unusual than others. Case in point, Randall Campbell's incredible Kentucky-based Chevy station wagon, a 3,000-pound 1966 Nova wagon. It doesn't have some big V8 engine under the hood. It's a 194 cubic inch straight 6-cylinder engine. This may be one of the slowest cars as far as actual elapsed time and speed are concerned on the quarter mile, but believe it or not, this machine is a multi-time national event winner. Randy Campbell has made a serious charge for the World Championship on several occasions. One of the neatest things about this race car is not only the fact that it's a true grocery getter, something you might think your family would drive rather than a racer, but indeed this man has made this car into a rolling billboard for sponsorships that a lot of people wouldn't think he could pick up unless you were driving a Nitro Funny car. There's a lot of ingenuity into tuning this car and campaigning it. Randy, what made you decide to run a 6-cylinder Chevy station wagon in this class? There's got to be a reason.
Yeah, it's the only car I can afford to run. I can't afford anything else. I can't afford to go fast.
But even though you don't have that much money involved in this machine as opposed to a super stock or a modified car, you're still capable of winning national events. You've done it before.
Well, we just try hard. We just give it our best shot. Everywhere we go, we give it all.
In this class, you're not allowed to really do anything different than what the way the car came from the factory. What do you do to tune this thing to make it run in 90 miles an hour in the quarter mile?
It's just got to be blueprinted and index plugs. We got to do everything we can. Little things makes all the difference.
Without changing it from its stock configuration.
Right, it's got to be stock.
Now, as far as the sponsors that you've put together, that pretty much allows you to travel, but some of them are pretty interesting. The potato chip sponsor, for interesting. How did that come about?
Well, I work with the boy. He's got a business on the side, and he just picked me up. He helps me all he can, and we appreciate anything we can get from anybody.
You've got a potato chip sponsor, a flea market sponsor, a construction company, even a hotel that gives you rooms at the races. How do you approach a sponsor with this race car?
Well, you just give it your best shot if you get the opportunity. Just take the opportunity to talk with them about it, get it explained to you. You explain it to them as good as you can, that you can advertise for them, and that you'll be glad to, and that you help them any way you can. Send people to the rooms, whatever.
And it helps a lot when the car's in the winner's circle, too, right?
It helps a whole lot. It makes all the difference.
These machines may not represent the largest investment in the world, but it is still a mechanical marvel that this car runs 90 miles per hour in the quarter mile with this little 6-cylinder power plant. But the one thing that's nice about Stock Eliminator is not only are the cars the stars, it has some pretty impressive personalities as well. You may not believe it, but you're looking at the driver that is currently ranked #2 in the World Championship in Stock Eliminator. Cleo Chandler, one of the most amazing individuals in all of motorsports, is one of IHRA's true superstars. In a sport where you're supposedly washed up by the time that you're 50, Cleo Chandler is a simply incredible individual. Racing on IHRA's National Championship Tour for the last 7 years with this machine, the Mom's Toy 1964 Chevy Malibu in the Stock Eliminator ranks, Cleo Chandler has always been competitive, but not nearly as much so as she was 1 week before the Spring Nationals when she won a World Championship Series event in Greer, South Carolina. That win made Cleo Chandler, at 74 years old, the oldest winner in the history of motorsports. Cleo, you had to be absolutely thrilled with your performance at Greer. It had to be a great moment for you.
It was the greatest moment I've ever had.
Now, you've been in the final round before as far as runners-up, and you've done extremely well in the years that you've raced, but this one was better because you had to run some of the toughest drivers in IHRA at this one.
Yes, and I was real thrilled to be number one.
Does it mean, I know that age doesn't mean that much to you. You're out here enjoying what you do, and you've always enjoyed racing, but does it mean anything to you to be the oldest person ever to win a major racing title?
No, it's just being myself, I guess. Just doing whatever comes natural, and drag racing I do love.
And the folks do love her. Every time Cleo comes out, pops that Chevy into gear and runs it down the quarter mile. Talk about your little old lady from Pasadena. Cleo's a classic. Ted, how about the sportsman results?
Well, another sportsman results. Top Sportsman was won by Ron Miller. Factory Modified went to Timmy Freeman. And Floyd Cheek, former IHRA World Champion, won Quick Rod. Super Rod went to Kevin Beach. Mark Stanowski, Hot Rod, Modified World Champion, and Pito picked up that trophy. In Super Stock, it was Ham Smith. The Stock Eliminator winner, that's Cleo's class, was Earl Smith.
And speaking of trophies, don't forget you can win a totally restored 57 Chevy Bel Air from Dan Chuck Manufacturing in California. Just look for the IHRA race word near the end of the show. Send it to Box 3029, Bristol, Tennessee 37625. Stay tuned. Coming up later in our show, it's the IHRA secret word. One correct answer per family per show, and you could win that beautiful 57 Chevy. We'll be back to Bristol. Final action in Pro Stock.
What a matchup this is. Doug Kirk against Harold Denton. The ETs in the most previous round would indicate we're in for a real drag race here. Kirk won the last round with a 7:57, 184. Denton won the last round with a 7:58, 185.
And remember, Kirk's the guy who knocked off Boris Johnson, who in turn beat our top qualifier, Tim Neighbors. Kirk in the red car to the left. On the right is Harold Denton. Good, clean start. Kirk opens up a big lead. Must be a problem with Denton's car. He's way off.
Shut down. Yes, he has. I think they had some oil in that lane, and Denton was trying to drive around it. Let's take another look, and I think we'll see the front end go down on Denton's car right there. The front end dips down as he lifts the throttle, and he just literally shut the car down and coasted on through, Bob.
And so the fairy tale continues for Doug Kirk, who has earned his way to the finals. Let's see who he'll meet there. Our next matchup will be Tommy Mooney and Ed Dixon. Dixon in the white Thunderbird, Mooney in this beautiful blue and white Pontiac Trans Am.
Well, another very close match here. Mooney went a 7:48, 195. Dixon ran a 7:50, 193. Good race coming up.
Mooney gets a terrible start. Dixon just runs away from him, but now Dixon has trouble and Mooney drives around.
Anything can happen in drag racing. Tommy Mooney, sometimes it takes a little bit of luck, a 7:51.
Boy, Mooney absolutely asleep at that start, but he also pulls off the quicker ET, so he'll have lane choice in the final against Doug Kirk.
Here in the Chuck Edgel's pit area, the funny car crew, and I stress the funny car crew, has already started to button up a motor that showed no signs of wear or any problems after that first round victory. But remember, this is a two-car team, and there's a lot more action going on. Down here is the Top Fuel dragster team for Paul Smith's crew. They're thrashing, and they did find a problem. In fact, it's a piston problem that most teams wish they had. Paul Smith says he's been running this piston in this race car for about 150 runs. It was in there so long that the skirt on the side of the piston broke from wear. It's one of the first times they've ever had to tear the engine down other than for basic maintenance. But right now, there are at least a dozen people running back and forth at this operation, trying to get two different cars ready for an assault on the semifinals that hopefully will find these two cars in the finals. We'll have to wait and see if all the work's worth it. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Brett. We're going to find out right now as we move to semifinal action in Top Fuel, where Paul Smith will have that rebuild engine as he goes in against John Carey.
Smith turned in a 5:41 in the quarterfinal round. John Carey only ran an I-13. Remember, he went up in smoke off the line, so we really don't know what Carey's capable of, and neither does he.
Well, we do know he's capable of knocking off the points leader. He did that to Richard Holcomb in the first round. There's a look at the business end of Carey's car. You see the wheelie bars and the parachutes, and the motor capable of 4,000 horsepower.
Those wheelie bars are very significant because they've been added since Don Garlett started a couple years ago with the wheel stands. Now they're starting to have a lot of problems with these top fuelers climbing up in the air. Carey hopes that maybe the wheelie bars will solve that.
Crewmen brushing down the tires, want those slicks as clean as possible. There is the engine at work. And they are away. Great start out of the right lane. Looks like Smith has bad tire hazing problems. Carey easily.
Smith up in smoke. Carey a 540, not a real impressive win, and you can see that smoking started before he ever got off the end of the pad. Carey an easy victory.
You're probably just as surprised as anybody that Paul Smith smoked the tires on that one, but 540, especially in the left lane at this track, is excellent.
Yes, you know, we had a little problem on the first run. We lost the port pump we didn't know about, and we just changed the port pump. We just barely made it too long. They had Paul Waiters on it. You know, if it wasn't for the crew and the people we have around, this wouldn't happen.
You think a 540 is going to be solid enough for the final round?
No, it's going to take a 30. You know, the car's got a 30 in it. We've had problems, just couldn't get it figured out, but we've got a handle on it now.
Can the track handle that much more, though?
Down track, yes. You know, they can handle it down here.
We'll see what happens, but welcome back to a final. It's been a while.
It's definitely too long.
Well, if the track will hold it at the big end, maybe what they need to do is take a close look at the gear ratios in that car. Nevertheless, we move on to our other matchup in the semifinals of Top Fuel. This is Michael Brotherton, and he'll have his hands full against Jack Ostrander.
Ostrander turned in a 533, the number Carey was just talking about in the most previous round. Brotherton, on the other hand, only ran a 544. So if Carey's right, Brotherton's got this race in the bag.
Big, explosive burnout for Michael Brotherton. Now here comes Jack Ostrander.
The burnout very important as they try and heat those tires up and, more importantly, lay down a track of rubber to try and run in. However, today at this racetrack, that hasn't been the problem. They're getting off the line great. It's down about the 600-foot mark where they're having trouble.
And the track has been very fair. We've had winners in both lanes, virtually 50-50 all day long. Trick aerodynamic treatment at the front end of Jack Ostrander's car there. He rolls forward. To the right of your screen, there are the lights. First, the pre-staging light, then the staging lights. Good start. They're away, and more smoke very early this time. And Jack Ostrander will cruise through as Mike Brotherton went up in smoke.
Ostrander a 552 to take the victory. Watch, he's just off the line there, and the smoke starts just as he goes off that concrete pad about 200 feet out. We spoke too soon, Bob. Now the track's gone away in the starting line area.
And we will move on to finals, where John Carey will have lane choice over Jack Ostrander. Now it's time for semifinal action in Nitro Funny Cars. It'll be Chuck Etchells up against Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday turned in a 585, not very impressive in the most previous round. Etchells, however, even less impressive with a 598. Both of these cars and drivers having trouble handling this tricky track. First, it was good on the starting line and bad in the eighth. Now it's reversed.
Escape hatches open as they back the cars up. They need to get air into these cars. That nitro-methane fuel mixture really makes your eyes water, and it's tough for those drivers to breathe unless they get some fresh air into those cars as they back up.
Chuck Etchells' Future Force car, powered by a CHEVY engine and a Chevrolet Beretta. Doc Holliday, 488 cubic inches of CHEVY power in a Dodge Daytona.
Keith Black, been building engines for drag races for a long time. Smoke now from Etchells' car, but he keeps his foot in it. It's a race. But with clean tires, Doc Holliday pulls it off.
You'll see why Doc Holliday won this. No smoke. Watch very closely. No smoke for Doc Holliday. Etchells, meanwhile, smoking all the way down. As we get to the 8th mile mark, they're nearly even. Coming up on the quarter-mile finish line, you'll see Holliday winning easily by about a car length.
The doctor said he was in after the first round. You just beat the most dominant car in IHRA racing, keeping Chuck Etchells from winning 3 straight. You're in a final. Welcome home.
Oh, it really feels great. I mean, the guys worked really hard, and here we are. What can we say?
577 is what I can tell you. Smooth as glass. He smoked the tires, and of course, you know Chuck. He wouldn't get out of it. 598 loser.
No, I know he was going to chase me. I could see him out there. It was a really good race for about 3/4 track, and I got ahead of him, and I said, I'm hanging on.
Well, these two guys have now had a look at that straight, clean run by Doc Holliday as they try to get into the finals alongside him. In the near lane, young Casey Spurlock. On the right lane, Mark Sievers.
Sievers turned in a 571 in the most previous round. Spurlock ran a 567.
They're away cleanly. Sievers gets out, but then he loses a little bit of traction. Has to slow down and straighten it up, and young Spurlock pulls it off.
Spurlock into the finals with a 554.
Where he will have lane choice over Doc Holliday, another great mix of youth and experience. Coming up on ESPN this year, we're going to show you lots of this kind of action as we bring you drag racing motorcycles. This is Mike Malone from Phoenix, Arizona. Look for him later this year here on ESPN.
whatsoever with their mountain-motored Oldsmobile Cutlass. The first final round this team has been in several seasons. And it seems like no matter what Doug Kirk does, it's going to be a big boost to Tommy Mooney in the world point standings in Pro Stock Eliminator. Remember, Mooney came out the winner at Darlington in the final round there against Ricky Smith. In fact, the new issue of Drag Review magazine, you can see that Mooney already has quite an advantage in Pro Stock Eliminator, and this particular final round appearance is going to be giving him a big, big boost. Drag Review magazine, in fact, is all you need to know about drag racing. That's where you'll get your point standings each and every week. And if you just order on the number on your screen right now, call in, and for only $34.95, you'll get 24 issues, 1 full year of Drag Review magazine. Plus, you'll become an International Harvard Association member, and that includes a membership decal for your car, membership
stock, where it'll be the pride of Kermit, West Virginia, Doug Kirk, up against Tommy Mooney, the only winner in Pro Stock thus far this year. He picked up the trophy at Darlington, South Carolina a month ago. Hopes to make it 2 straight now from Shelby, North Carolina. It's the battle of the mountain motors. Kirk running a 689 cubic inch Chevrolet in his Chevy. Tommy Mooney running a 742 cubic inch Pontiac in that Trans Am. Kirk has definitely had the tougher road to get here. He has knocked off Morris Johnson and Harold Denton. A much easier road for Mooney, getting a little squirrely off the starting line. A great drag race there, side by side, past the halfway mark, and Mooney just pulls it out by half a car length.
Oh, just barely nipped him. 752, 187 miles per hour. Let's look at the finish again just to show you how close it was. Look at that.
Well, we'll make this a habit.
It's getting to be a regular thing. 1990 has seen only 1 Pro Stock winner in IHRA racing, and that's you, my friend. 752 to a 762. I might add it was only 400ths at the finish line due to a slight hole shot, but you got around him.
Well, I knew Doug. I figured he'd leave on me, and all I could do just hope this big motor's thing fixed, just going around him around there. You know, this Trans Am, it's been perfect all day. This thing's got to be for the Willifords, man.
You always thank all your sponsors, but you never say anything about the chassis builder on this thing.
Well, he does all right, too. I get it.
A Tommy Mooney chassis with a Tommy Mooney driver.
All right, we move on to the finals in Top Fuel. We had 8 cars in this field, 8 different chassis, and 5 different engine combinations. They are not alike by any means, and we will watch as John Carey takes on Jack Ostrander. This should be a drag race.
Well, Carey said he needed a 5:30 to win this thing. Ostrander ran a 5:52 in the most previous round. Carey ran a 5:40. So if Carey runs the 5:30, he can win it, but I don't think it's going to take a 30, Bob.
Well, between the track and the weather conditions, these guys have really had their hands full. Good start. Ostrander with the early lead. Can he hold it? No. Carey. Boy, we'll have to see that one again.
546, 262. We've got to look at it one more time. They're nearly even at the finish line, and you can see Carey. It's going to be a win by less than 12 inches.
Nobody did. Did you believe it was 4 thousandths of a second between the two of you in the lights? Got to admit, you got murdered on the starting line. But 546 to 554, you won.
Well, Jack's always tough on the lights. You know, but the car really pulled strong in the center of the track, and I seen I was gaining on him. And I didn't know it. It was so close at the finish line, I didn't know.
Jack said he didn't see you until the first light. He said, and there you were. But it was 4 thousandths of a second between the two of you. You just got around him. But congratulations. It's good to see you back in the winner's circle.
It's good to be here.
And we move on to the final in Nitro Funny Cars, where Doc Holliday will go up against young Casey Spurlock.
You know, the doctor hasn't been running all that fast, but the doctor has a lot of experience, and we've seen him in finals before here on the IHRA coverage.
You saw a quick look there at a sort of lime green decal on the side of Casey Spurlock's car, a tribute to injured racer Darrell Gwynn, still in a hospital in Miami, Florida.
Holiday ran a 577 in the last round. Spurlock a 554.
Red light. The doctor is out. He red lights off the line, and Casey Spurlock picks up an easy first IHRA victory.
And he wins it with a 565. Not that impressive. Holiday took a shot on the tree. He knew Spurlock had him covered. He left and tried to guess it, and he lost.
I had to try you.
I know.
I don't know if you saw the red light. Doc pushed her tight, but a 565 again, still in the heat and humidity. Just absolute domination of this thing.
Tell you what, Brett, these guys have done just a fantastic job, and I didn't think I was late on the light, and I saw Doc so far ahead of me. I pretty much knew he had guessed on the light, and I went ahead and chased him down anyway just to be sure. And you know, these guys just did a great job this weekend. I can't give Ronnie Swearingen and all my crew, you know, enough credit for this deal. They've really done an excellent job on what was a very tricky track.
I got to ask you, after the 554 in the semis, which was so incredible and obviously borderline on this track, did you back it down for that 60, or did you shut her off early?
Well, we backed it down just a little bit. You know, the weather was coming to us a little bit. We didn't want to go out there and be too hot and risk blowing the tires off, so we did back the car down a little bit, and I think that's just about all it would have taken. It was hazing the tires pretty bad down there, so I think that was about all it would have taken.
Well, it certainly hasn't been a weekend for records on